Can I get you anything else today? How about some lube to keep your joints humming?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay. Cash or charge?
I'll sign for it.
All right, here you are. I appreciate the business, Phil.
It's my pleasure, Tony.
Okay.
Hey, Tony. Nice closing.
Oh, hi, Rick.
Glad
Sorry.
to see you're selling Rockwell parts.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see you sitting there. You waiting to see Dave?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I could probably sell a lot more if I'd been in the business a dozen years like Dave.
Why's that?
There's just so much you got to know about each different product. Then there's everybody else's stuff besides.
Everybody else? You mean there are other people in the truck parts aftermarket business?
Very funny. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But tell me, Tony, when you have a choice, why go with anybody but an original equipment supplier?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we're not just repackaging somebody else's parts. Rockwell's parts are the same as original quality.
Or they wouldn't be OEM, I know.
That's right. They've got to pass stringent original equipment manufacturer tests. Other aftermarket suppliers don't have to meet.
Yeah, but even...
Not only that, they're designed and made to work as a unit to meet those OEM standards. OEM replacement parts all have to work together, just like in a new vehicle.
You mean like tolerances and all that?
Exactly. Dimensions, durability, you name it. A new brake job or a drive line, axle, all has to be as good.
Not just as good as the competition's?
But as good as a brand new part in a brand new vehicle.
So then Rockwell's more than just a replacement part.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
But they cost more, don't they?
No, not necessarily. Rockwell's really very price competitive. Oh, sure. Some individual OEM parts might be a little higher, but some are even lower.
So it all works out about the same, huh?
Right.
Well, Rockwell's a big company.
You got it. Besides OEM quality and competitive pricing, we're going to support our customers over the long haul, like only a big company can. Ever heard of us walking away from a customer?
No. I remember you even got another Rockwell distributor to get one of our customers up and running when he broke down outside Washington that time.
Yep, we sure did. That's because when you deal with us, you know you got Rockwell right behind you.
Well...
But what have you done for me lately, right?
Yeah, I guess you could put it like that.
Well, how about our marketing support, huh? Brochures, training programs like this one?
Well, you know, that sales training videotape, the General Patton one, that was a pretty good tape, but there's just too much product to learn.
Well, maybe you shouldn't try to master it all at once. Just get up to speed a little at a time. I brought some new catalogs that might help you out with this.
Catalogs? Which ones?
Well, let's take a look here. We've got, well, here's brakes, drive lines, front axles, gearing. Let's start you out with brakes.
Right. Now, this is a big help. But I still have trouble seeing the big picture, you know? I mean, Dave and those other old-timers, well, I guess they're not that old.
Yeah, but they really know their stuff, right?
Yeah, they can figure out a customer's problem sometimes almost faster than he can.
I know what you mean.
It's kind of discouraging, actually. I mean, I want to do a good job and everything, but it's just real hard trying to figure how all these things work, what they do. Look at all these brake kit parts.
Yep. 3 out of 4 replacement parts for any brake, new and used, are for Rockwell brakes.
Well, that's great, but how do all these parts fit into the brake itself?
Well, come on over here. Look at this model. See how it works? When you put your foot on the brake pedal, compressed air pushes this rod that makes the slack adjuster turn the S-cam. The S-cam head pushes on these rollers, spreading the shoes apart against the drum.
The friction that stops the truck.
Right. And these return springs pull the shoes back away from the drums when you release the air pressure, when you take your foot off the brake.
Yeah. Well, that looks pretty simple. These are the...
Retainer springs.
This is the return spring, then, and these are the rollers?
Right.
These are the anchor pins?
Yep.
And the bushings?
Right.
Yeah, so you can change shoes and hardware fast without tools. Some of our guys can do it in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah. See how they hold the shoes to that brake spider or backing plate? That's what gives them leverage while they're being pushed against the drum.
Wow, that's a lot of force in there. What are these bushings for?
The anchor pins ride in them to reduce wear on the spider. These return spring pins and roller retainers hold the return spring and rollers in place. We give you the parts to do the whole job.
Okay, but so what?
So, don't your brake customers replace their springs and clips and rollers and bushings when they get new shoes?
No. I mean, I admit they told us to tell them that in sales training, but I don't always do it. Probably because I don't know exactly what for.
Well, look at what's come in today already. These worn and flat-spotted rollers, corrosion, and worn-out springs, they're the main reasons customers come to you for new brakes in the first place.
Looks like this roller got smashed. Too soft or what?
Yeah, that's why they should have been replaced with the shoes.
What does Rockwell do about that?
Well, we harden our rollers and anchor pins for longer life.
So I can tell my customers these kits have all the wear items that are just as critical as the linings themselves?
Sure.
And they have the same dimensions, tolerances, and all that as the original brake assemblies Rockwell designed for new trucks.
And hardness, coating, and spring tensions. All the replacement items you need for a complete brake job. And all up to OEM specs. Now remember what I said about Rockwell OEM parts being designed as a unit?
So they all work together like new.
You can't just isolate one part and make it better, which is what a lot of other suppliers claim, say by putting chrome on certain parts.
Yeah, look how the chrome wore.
And corroded. This phosphate coating isn't as pretty as chrome.
But it's better, huh?
A lot. Phosphate resists corrosion better and constantly renews itself underneath.
This spring doesn't look so hot.
Stretched return springs like this one make brake shoes drag.
Don't tell me. That increases lining wear?
Rockwell uses shot peen spring wire for strong, exact spring tensions.
This Rockwell S-cam here. Doesn't the S-cam wear out from turning on the rollers? And don't these spline teeth wear down too?
Well, they can. That's why the S-head has to be tough. These spline teeth have to mate exactly with the slack adjuster.
Any play in there causes wear, huh?
Rockwell induction hardens all critical wear points.
What is this induction hardening business?
In the factory, they attach electric wires right to the parts and heat them red hot. That hardens them.
Doesn't everybody?
No, other manufacturers say they harden theirs, but some only touch them. They don't go as deep as we do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see the difference in color where it's hardened. On both ends.
Hardly anybody hardens this end.
That makes it last longer?
Not only induction hardened, Rockwell 28 tooth cam splines, unlike the competition, are cold rolled rather than machine cut for more metal strength and longer life.
Why is this slack adjuster so heavy? It's just a lever that turns the S-cam, isn't it?
You think that's heavy duty? Try this Rockwell.
Oh. Now what is that?
Forged steel, 25% heavier than the competition.
Well, that ought to give it more strength and...
Durability. This Acme-style gearing has thicker gear teeth, too.
absorbs more braking forces.
For longer life.
What's this fitting do?
Lube passages go right to the adjuster mechanism. Helps resist corrosion, and a grease-fitting inner ball seals in the lube while it keeps out road gunk.
Huh. Well, I bet there's not much Rockwell can do to make brake shoes better than the competition.
Oh, yes, there is. We stamp genuine Rockwell unlined brake shoes out on what's called a coining machine.
Like the Mint.
So they'll be as good as you can get them every time. Coin shoe tables give exact arcs and dimensions, and better lining fit.
Like a building, a brake lining's only as good as its foundation. I bet you get longer wear because they make such even contact with the drum.
And we've got more heat-treated induction hardening of our web ends.
Is that what made these web ends mushroom out like that? They weren't hardened?
Yeah. Deformations and unequal stresses and pressures on the rollers.
So that's what makes for the sloppy, loose fit that leads to lining wear.
Right again. See, you're going to be able to diagnose your customers' brake problems right up there with the best of them. Oh, hey, Tony, I got to get in to see Dave now.
Okay if I wait around for you? Then we can finish talking about the other Rockwell products?
Sure, no problem.
All right.
Hey, Tony, you still here?
Well, hi, Rick. Yeah.
I thought you went home at 5.
No, I've been waiting around for one of those Rockwell catalogs you promised.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, let's see what we got here for you.
All right.
Ah, here we go. Here's one on front axles.
Thanks. Pretty big.
Well, it ought to be. It's got more parts in it than anybody else's. Over 300 new parts numbers, plus all the current Rockwell parts available.
Why so many?
That's because more than half the trucks you see on the road today have got Rockwell front axles on them.
No wonder we sell so many Rockwell Kingpin kits and tie rod ends, huh?
Not only that, half of all the new heavy-duty trucks made in North America come with Rockwell front axles.
You guys are really getting your act together.
Look at it like this, Tony. Your customers' fleets probably got Rockwell axles, but they're probably servicing them with somebody else's parts. Now, that doesn't do the fleet, you, or Rockwell any good.
Yeah, well, it happens a lot.
So, if he spec'd a Rockwell front axle on his truck to begin with, why wouldn't he want to have genuine Rockwell service parts to fix it?
Oh, yeah, that makes pretty good sense. Now, here it says that Rockwell and non-Rockwell parts, no matter what the make, are available through the Rockwell distribution system.
Uh-huh. Now, when you get a chance to sit down with it, you'll see we've got one-stop shopping for front axle parts for all makes.
Even stuff you don't make yourselves?
Oh, yeah. We carry kingpin kits, tie rod ends, and drag links for all makes, as well as cross tubes, steering arms, tie rod arms, knuckles, and related parts for Rockwell applications.
So Rockwell can supply the front-end parts I need.
Exactly.
Okay.
We also have a suggested inventory to make sure you have the right parts on your shelf.
But what about quality?
These front axle parts are the same Rockwell quality as we designed into new vehicles. Same engineering approval process, same standards, same fit.
Okay. What if Rockwell makes improvements on its new parts at the factory? Then what?
Then we put those improvements right into our aftermarket parts.
Whatever goes on the new truck?
You get it too. Well, look at these parts.
Now, I know what the parts are. Knuckle pin, bushings, bearings. But I'm not sure what they all do, how they go together.
It's not hard. I'll show you.
Great.
The front axle does just 3 things. It supports part of the weight of both the truck and the load.
Okay.
It steers,
Yeah, I see that.
and it's the attaching point for front brakes and drums.
All right, but I want to see where all these parts fit.
Okay, let's start with the knuckle pin.
All right, the knuckle pin. Here you go.
Now, this is a high-wear item, so you're going to see a lot of them in the aftermarket.
Okay.
Here.
What's this bushing for?
This is an easy steer, low-friction polymer bushing. It reduces steering effort up to 26%.
Yeah, so what does that mean?
Lowers driver fatigue. And you can also get them in bronze or nylon if you want.
What do these grooves do?
They let grease flush through during lubrication. Fresh grease is forced into the bushing.
How about that dimply-looking surface there?
Those dimples hold grease longer. Reduces friction and wear on the knuckle pin.
Okay. How about these roller bearings? They're tapered.
Yeah, they minimize friction and they help steer easier.
Come on, a roller bearing is a roller bearing is a roller bearing.
No, they're not. Rockwell roller bearings are original equipment quality. That's not true for all suppliers.
You mean lots of competitive bearings aren't as good?
I sure do. There are plenty of bearings to choose from, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
These bearings were designed right into this axle.
Okay. Now, I know that this is the steering knuckle, but how's it work?
The knuckle's attached to the axle end. It lets the wheels turn on the stationary axle.
Oh, like a hinge.
Mm-hmm.
But why are yours better?
Rockwell forged knuckles allow up to a 50-degree turning angle. That's the tightest turning radius in the industry.
Okay. Now, these zerks on the end caps let lube into the pin and upper and lower bushings?
Yep.
Now, this knuckle pin looks like it's what attaches the steering knuckle to the axle end, right?
Yes. And it's induction hardened
Makes them stronger.
and lasts longer.
All right. What are these?
Knuckle pin seal and thrust bearing seal. They retain lube and keep out road contaminants.
Helps reduce friction wear.
Right.
Well, that fits all right. I mean, most of my front-end parts customers come in here with knuckle pin and bushing wear. That means they're not lubed enough, huh?
Not following the lube schedule can cause problems, or they could be using the wrong type grease.
Have worn or missing seals and gaskets.
Or maybe they're not replacing all the moving parts when they get a front-end job.
That's why Rockwell kits used for Rockwell applications
Or other applications.
give you all the parts to bring an axle back to original specs.
You're getting the hang of it.
What are all these?
Steering arm, drag links, tie rod ends, and arms are all available from Rockwell.
Yeah, but where do they go?
The drag link is connected to the pitman arm on one end and the steering arm on the other. It moves the wheel end when you turn the steering wheel.
And the tie rods?
Tie rod arms connect the tie rod ends to the knuckle. Lots of stress and wear here, especially on the tie rod ends.
So the tie rod assembly holds the wheel ends parallel.
In the same path.
And your tie rod ends have grease fittings, too.
Yeah, very important.
That's got something to do with another one of my big problems. Customers complaining about uneven tire wear, or their tires just don't last long enough.
Well, this can be very complicated, Tony, but a front axle's got to be set up right and specified correctly.
Like when you put a load on them.
Front axles can affect wheel camber, caster, toe in and toe out, and tire wear.
Oh, yeah, alignment.
You can't pick up a trade magazine today without hearing about fleet tire wear problems.
No, the front axle's got a lot to do with that.
Congratulations. You've just learned how to solve most of your customers' main front-end problems.
Knuckle pin, bushing, and tire wear.
And if you can't answer front axle questions yourself, ask Rockwell.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Well, besides me, Rockwell's got front axle experts and technicians who'll help you.
So I can just call them up.
Yep. Rockwell's spec department can answer the tough questions. And you can use our field maintenance manuals, technical training materials, and video training tapes.
It's terrific. Oh, hang on just a second. Tony speaking. Oh, hi, Dave. Yeah, he's still here. We were just... Okay, yeah, I'll tell him. David, I'd like to see you for a couple more minutes.
Oh, great. Sure. Just go right on back?
Yeah, right on back.
Great, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Tony, you still here?
Yeah. Hey, how'd it go this time?
Real good.
I was just waiting around for another one of those Rockwell catalogs you've been handing out today.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Here we go. Drive lines.
Thanks. You know, Rick, these Rockwell catalogs sure help me do my job better.
Yeah, and every time you go through one of them, you end up knowing the product better than you thought you did.
Look at those drive lines waiting to be remanufactured. Now, I've been staring at them off and on ever since I started working here.
Yeah?
Well, some of my buddies can just lay their hands on them and figure out what's wrong with them and what the customer really needs and get them fixed up and get them back on the road again.
And how about you?
To tell you the truth, Rick, I don't like to wait on customers with a driveline problem.
Why's that?
Well, I'm not very sure I can help them.
All right, let's take a closer look at the brochure and what a driveline does.
I know what it does. It sends power from the transmission to the driving axles.
Okay.
But how does it do that? I mean, it's got universal joints, slip yokes, end yokes, spline plugs, center bearing stub, you name it.
Okay, let's figure out what all those driveline components are for.
Well, it looks simple enough.
Now, the first thing about a driveline is that while it's turning with the transmission, it also has to get longer and shorter as the truck's suspension moves up and down over the road.
A lot?
Not a lot, but an inch or two, constantly.
How's it do that?
By this spline plug and slip yoke.
Now, the spline plug is always moving in and out of the yoke?
Yeah, that's why it's called a slip yoke. They've got this spline like gear teeth inside.
A few inches long.
See how the splines on the plug mesh with those in the yoke?
One drives the other.
Together, teeth edges transmit the turning motion of the shaft while the tooth faces slip back and forth against each other.
Huh. Lets the drive line get longer and shorter to take up bumps in the road. Lots of friction there, I bet, though, huh?
Right. Now, Rockwell coats these splines with Polyglide to reduce friction by half or more, so there's less fatigue on components. See how it moves back and forth, getting longer and shorter, and still the splines engaged to keep it turning?
Yeah. The slip yoke, huh? It's pretty neat.
This fits around this universal joint trunnion.
Trunnion, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are 4 of them.
Oh, and then the end yoke from the transmission fits over the 2 trunnions on the other end of the U-joint.
There are at least 2 universal joints on every drive shaft, 1 at each end.
Hey, it moves both ways.
Has to. The shaft angle changes when the truck goes over bumps. A solid one would snap from fatigue.
Must be pretty tough to stand up to all that in and out, up and down, huh?
And all the friction generated inside the U-joints themselves. They're the biggest wear item in the driveline.
So that's why we sell so many of them.
Here, Tony, let me show you something else about Rockwell U-joints. These Rockwell trunnions are heat-treated by the same process as our gears and axles. And nobody's got a bigger bearing surface than Rockwell. The 17N series trunnions are the biggest in the industry.
So more workload surface means longer life?
Rockwell Extra Life U-joints have got more needle bearings than most other brands.
Spreads the load out.
Over a bigger area. These double zerks make sure you can lube it, no matter where the joint stopped, top or bottom.
So you don't have to turn the shaft to lube it.
Right. There's lube channels inside.
Uh-huh, pretty neat.
The waffle design thrust washer lets grease flow out underneath to lube the trunnion and the bearings. Reduces end galling.
Like this.
Right.
What holds the U-joints on?
The right size snap rings or straps and screws that come with each CP kit. Rockwell also makes yokes with steel retainer straps or U-bolts. No bearing caps to take off and no hammering to remove or install the U-joints.
Makes them easier to service, huh?
We call them easy service yokes.
Okay, I got all that, but what's this?
An improved dust seal reduces lube contamination and lengthens part life.
You lube the spline plug too, huh?
Yes, through this zerk. Lube's very important. A lot of guys don't maintain their drive shafts right, and they come in with vibrations.
Yeah, we sure get a lot of those. They come in here and all I hear about is vibrations, vibrations. But I don't know how vibrations are caused by all these different driveline parts.
Well, wear on the U-joint trunnions and these splines makes the parts fit looser.
And they vibrate?
Right.
That makes one big drive shaft problem I can handle now.
Another big source of vibration is when they put the yokes on and they don't line up the weld yoke with the slip yoke properly, like it should be.
Kind of throws them out of kilter?
Makes a lot of vibration.
I'll bet. Now, this end yoke is what goes on the rear axle and hooks to the U-joint?
You got it.
And then this is the yoke that hooks the front U-joint to the transmission?
They're attached to both the transmission output and axle input shafts. These Rockwell end yokes are induction hardened, which extends seal life and lessens hub damage. Bosses are machined for precise balancing.
Less possible vibration?
You don't have to drill holes in the ears.
What?
Other brands, you have to drill holes in these ears to take out metal, to balance them.
Weakens them, huh?
And it's a convenient spot for mud and snow and gunk to collect, which can throw it out of balance. Rockwell's design eliminates this. These flingers on the yoke protect the seals from road debris.
Okay. So what do I do with these leftover parts?
They're not left over, exactly.
Well, then what are they for?
They're more Rockwell driveline parts you should know about, because there's a big demand for them.
For what?
Center bearings and bearing stubs. They use them to break up tube length if there's a really long distance from the transmission to the drive axle. One more part of the driveline we haven't talked about, the driveline tube.
Pretty important?
It's usually overlooked. Sometimes it can fail you when you really need to get on the road. Look at that twisted up tube there.
You mean this twisted up tube? I just thought it was cause for bad drivers, you know, guys dumping the clutch and all that.
That's only part of it. Now, if the shaft was the strongest part of the driveline, then dumping the clutch and overloading the truck would put too much stress on other, more expensive drivetrain components.
You mean like the axle or the tranny?
Right,
This way, you only end up twisting the tube instead of tearing up the whole drivetrain.
right.
Rick, I really appreciate you taking all the time to help me figure all this out.
Well, maybe now you won't avoid customers with driveline problems.
No, I think I can face them now.
And just remember, if you have any questions, you can call me.
I do, on the other catalogs.
Maybe later, huh? I promised the guys back in the shop that I'd stop by before I left.
Okay, see you later, Rick.
All right.
Bye-bye. Hi, Rick. Got a catalog for me?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Here you go.
Gearing. Thanks, Rick. That'll come in real handy someday.
Someday? What do you mean someday?
Well, someday. Right now, I don't have problems with gearing.
Oh, yeah?
Sure. I know how Rockwell rear drive axles work, and that you sell a wide range of products.
Well, congratulations, Tony. Most guys do have a lot of trouble, with drive axle gearing especially.
Not me. Listen, I can run through what I tell my customers for you real quick. Got a minute? Check it out.
Sure, okay.
Okay. Mainly, I tell them the rear axle transmits power to the wheels.
From the transmission through the drive line.
Yes. But it also changes the direction of power.
How do you mean?
I'll show you. On a single axle, this pinion's connected to the drive shaft, and it turns this ring gear.
Yeah?
All right, well, look at this. That changes engine power direction from the drive shaft to a right angle to the axle shafts.
So, what do I need a differential for?
Well, the differential also lets both drive wheels, one on each axle half, travel at different speeds at the same time with equal power.
So what?
Well, like when you're going around curves or turning.
Why's that?
Well, I think it has something to do with making the wheel on the outside of the turn go faster because it has farther to travel than the inside one that it pivots around.
So far, so good. But what's inside the differential case?
Well, that's a good question. How about running through it for me?
Okay. When the truck goes straight forward or backward, this whole differential nest and housing is being rotated as a unit by the ring gear.
Now, when you have a single axle, the drive shaft and yokes connected directly to the pinion.
The ring gear's bolted here, right to the flange half of the differential case assembly. Bolted, not riveted to the diff case.
For easier installation?
And strength. The pinion turns the ring gear.
The nest is spinning inside.
Right. The axle shaft's connected to side gears that are driven on what they call cross and spider pinions. So the whole differential nest goes around, turning each axle shaft.
But what about turning corners?
Each axle shaft splined into one of the side gears. When the truck's going straight, all these gears mesh. See how the side gears rotate with the cross as a single unit, transmitting engine power to side gears?
They just roll solid like that while the whole housing turns?
Something like that.
All right, but when you go around a corner?
That's when these four pinion gears balance speed differences between the side gears attached to the axle shafts.
I know, but how?
The pinion gears can travel with the cross and on the cross at the same time. Now this allows power to still be delivered to both side gears and allows them to turn at different speeds.
Sure looks simple enough, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot easier to show you than explain it.
So what do I tell my customers then?
Don't just tell them, show them. We can practice on this. Now look, I just got it at my last stop. Now suppose a guy comes in here and hands you one of these chewed up crosses.
I see broken parts like this a lot. Looks like he had a spin out on his main differential.
Yeah?
He probably had one wheel sitting still and the other one just spinning like crazy.
And?
I'd also say he might not have had enough lube in his diff to begin with, and that could be his problem. But how's he going to fix it?
Completely overhaul his differential. Pinions, side gears, and the washers that go with them.
Yeah, but sometimes they tell me they don't need all that other stuff. Just sell him a new cross. What then? He might as well put the whole kit in there while he's at it, right?
Could be some other damage he maybe hasn't seen.
Yeah, like the gear teeth could be damaged and he might not know it.
That's right. But now suppose he says, hey, I don't understand why I should replace all of the gears.
Then I can show him how they all work together inside the differential?
Right. It'll help him understand why he needs a whole new differential nest.
Well, then I'd also recommend this guy with the chewed up cross change his side gears, which is in the kit too.
Saves money in the long haul. But now suppose he wants to go with a Wilfit unit.
I'd warn him not to.
Why?
Because all these parts are made with Rockwell quality built into them.
That's true. For example, on ring and pinion gears, we use generoid gearing, cut by computer-controlled accuracy, with a larger gear profile for more strength and longer life.
So you shouldn't mix and match gearing made by other non-Rockwell component suppliers. Besides, that'd void his guarantee on the rest of his Rockwell differential parts, wouldn't it, if he had one?
Completely.
Well, then I'd tell him something like, all Rockwell parts are guaranteed, and we know what goes into them.
That's not a bad beginning for an upsell, Tony. But what about the worn teeth on his ring gear?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I'd have to sell him another ring gear.
That's all?
He'd have to buy a new pinion, too, right?
Right.
All right, why is that?
Rockwell ring and pinion sets are manufactured and tested to work together as a team. Makes them operate a lot quieter.
Less noise and vibration.
Reduces failure. Gives you better fuel economy for lower cost per mile.
Cuts maintenance costs, too, huh?
Of course, while he's at it, that customer also ought to have a complete change of his pinion and diff case bearings, too.
How come?
All the bearings are engineered to work with Rockwell gearing for best performance.
And naturally, we'd change the seals.
You know, only Rockwell's got these triple lip extended life seals to keep lube in and road gunk out.
So the moral is, use only Rockwell quality parts for Rockwell axles.
Right. Well, I really got to get going now, Tony.
Well, thanks a lot for all your help, Rick. I appreciate it.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Come on, I'll show you out. Got to lock up.